Mr. Lawson, are you here?
I'm here.
I call the town meeting for Town of Rising Sun to order on Tuesday, March 26th. This is the decision meeting of the town. And we'll have Rhonda. Rhonda's not here. Rhonda will call the roll.
Commissioner Osborne. Commissioner Berkowitz.
Here.
Commissioner Naughton.
Here.
Commissioner Marion.
Here.
Mayor Fisher.
Here.
Calvin Bodenberger.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all commissioners, mayor, and Calvin Bodenberger, town administrator, are present.
Okay, you all rise, please. Say the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have a moment of silence for whatever purpose you choose to use.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would like to do a moment of silence, if I could.
Well, why did you have it on here? You wanted to do it.
I'm sad to announce that the town of Rising Sun has not only lost a pillar of the community fire company, but also a pillar of our community itself. Let us have a moment of silence in remembrance of Mr. Charlie Goody. My thoughts and prayers are with his family and for the fire company of Rising Sun. Thank you for the service to our town.
Why did you have to do that and not me?
Oh, God.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have the minutes, you have a copy of the minutes for the 22nd, January the 22nd. So I have a motion to approve the minutes.
I will make the motion to approve the minutes from our January 22nd meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, did everyone say aye? Okay, now the report of the executive sessions.
On January the 27th, 2013, the Rising Sun Town Council had a closed meeting at 3 p.m. at the second floor of Town Hall. Motion to open the meeting was made by Joanne Osborne, Commissioner, seconded by Stephen Norton, Commissioner. Vote of the elected body and members present. Mayor Fisher abstained. Charlie Berkowitz was absent. Mayor Fisher was present. Travis, Stephen, and Joanne voted aye and were present. Motion to hold an executive session was made by Stephen Norton, Commissioner, seconded by Travis Marion, Commissioner. The motion passed 3-0. The purpose of the meeting, in accordance with the Maryland Open Meetings Act, Title 10, Governmental Procedures, Subtitle 5, Meetings, Section 10-508A, this meeting was closed in order to discuss, 1, the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matters that affect one or more specific individuals. Actions taken at the executive session. First action item was Commissioner Travis Marion made a motion to present the amended employment contract to Calvin Bodenberger Jr. to be accepted or rejected by February the 4th, 2013. The motion passed 3-0. Motion made by Commissioner Joanne Osborne to seal the minutes, seconded by Stephen Naughton, Commissioner. The motion passed 3-0. Motion made by Joanne Osborne to leave executive session, seconded by Commissioner Stephen Naughton. The motion passed 3-0. Motion to adjourn the meeting by Commissioner Naughton, seconded by Commissioner Marion. The motion passed 3-0. The meeting adjourned at 3:26 p.m. And at this time, I would like to make the announcement that we are pleased that Mr. Bonenberger accepted our offer of continued employment. We have so many projects in process. We are happy to provide our residents with continuity in administration with Mr. Bonenberger staying with us. Although Mr. Bonenberger received a substantial raise in the new contract, the cost of his 45-hour week is less than the cost of 2 employees doing the same tasks that he is charged with completing. Based on 2008 figures, we were paying 2 people a total of $157,579 a year. In today's money, that is equivalent to $170,000. Mr. Bonenberger's total payroll package, including taxes and benefits, equals $121,925 for the year 2013. I think we, the residents of Rising Sun, are getting a deal. Now that the uncertainty of Mr. Bonenberger possibly leaving is past, we can move forward with all the projects that we have underway. The parks projects can move forward. The streets and sidewalks projects can move forward. The bidding package for this year's improvements will be sent out to contractors soon. Mr. Bonenberger is always looking for new grant money for town projects, and he is always negotiating with our suppliers for better contracts, meaning for us lower contract costs and/or more services for the same or lower costs. Trash collection contracts and health insurance contracts are examples of areas where he has saved us money. Thank you, Mr. Bonenberger. Thank you, Mayor.
Is that it? The next item on the agenda is ordinance and resolutions and presentations. I guess I don't understand all these resolutions, why it's necessary, and some of these resolutions are changes to the charter, and the change in the charter procedure is that it must be advertised 2 times in the paper before they're acted on. So by those rules, we can't act on anything that's a change in the charter tonight. So, but the first resolution.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, if I may, sir. All we're doing is passing resolutions to introduce charter changes. We can certainly pass those tonight.
Okay. Okay. The first one is the appointment to the Historic Commission. So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that is me. The town received a letter of resignation from one of our historical board members, but I realized that actually the appointments are up in March. So I'm going to put forward a resolution to fill those 2 town vacancies in our historical commission. The resolution is 2013-01. Whereas the town located in Cecil County is a municipality organized under and governed by Article 23A of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and whereas the town is proclaimed as a perpetual entity with the right to pass laws, and whereas Article 8 of the Town Code titled Historical Commission contains 2-801 titled Purpose and Membership, which also contains subnotes, which grants the mayor and the commissioners the authority to appoint 2 members to the board of directors for the Historical Commission to serve a 2-year term. And whereas the town would like to reappoint Ms. Diane Earhart, and whereas the town appointed Ms. Diane Earhart and James Gibney to these positions in January of 2011, and whereas the terms have been have since expired and must be reappointed. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun wish to appoint Ms. Diane Earhart and Mr. Thomas S. Mummy to the Board of Directors of the Town of Rising Sun's Historical Commission, who shall both serve a 2-year term set to expire in February of 2015. Now therefore be it further resolved that the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun passed, approved, and adopted this resolution on the 26th day of February 2013. I'll put the motion to the floor, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you've heard the motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, do we have any comments? Hearing no comments, I believe that this is an independent body, and I haven't been shown in the charter where this is the way we do it. I think it should be appointed by the Historic Commission. The Historic Commission is not really a decision-making body with the Town of Rising Sun, and I think that this should be deferred until we examine the way members of the Historic Commission are to be appointed, whether they're to be to suggest the new members are to be suggested by the Historic Commission itself. So
Point of order, sir, I would just like to say that the Historical Commission does appoint certain boards of directors within their own body. The town does appoint 2 members to the Historical Commission. Thank you.
Well, I think anybody we appoint should be compatible with the people that are already there. That's my thought, and whatever it's worth, that's my thought.
My motion still stands. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
You have a
Well-
motion on the floor?
I would like to defer this until we can really verify, you know. I didn't get this till 7:30 last night. Now, I think we should have the courtesy to let everybody see things and digest it before we rush into things, so.
From what I understand, these 2 people have been, said they're willing to serve, and it's a wonderful organization. If we had people who are willing to serve as volunteers in such a.
Well, they're not the only volunteers, Stephen. I mean, there may be other people that also want to serve, so I think we should have a list of people and select from that, not us just picking who we want rather than who the people the town wants.
Travis, are these the only 2 that came forward?
I'm reappointing Ms. Diane Earhart. She does a great job with the Historical Commission, and I
Absolutely.
did receive a letter from Mr. Mummy that he would like to be involved in it, yes.
Well, if we solicit names from other people, it should be an open process. Maybe there's somebody else that would like to serve.
Well, my suggestion would be if there are other people who would like to serve, that they should make that known to everyone, and they should have put forth their names earlier. Since if they are involved, they know when the terms expire for the people who were appointed.
Well, even I didn't know this until 7:30 last night, so, you know, how were the other people in the town made aware that this was to be done tonight?
Well, if they're interested in the Historic Commission, they've been involved with it, and therefore they would know.
Yes. Well, we'll have to wait till the end. But
There's an important fact that is not being stated correctly.
okay.
These appointments were made by the mayor and the commissioners in May, not in February, January, or March. So no one would have expressed an interest until May.
The documentation that I received was that the positions will start it in January of 2011. That's the information that I was given.
You should check the bylaws of the Historic Commission because they do not agree.
And I'm gonna rule that we defer this until we fully investigate the rules.
You're gonna rule that we're gonna do that? Charlie, do you have a motion you were gonna make?
I motion that we table it.
Okay.
With that information, I just don't think it's fair. If that's the case.
Okay. And we have to vote on the table.
I'll withdraw my motion. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the second one is,
It's my resolution. Thank you. Town of Rising Sun Resolution 2013-02. Whereas the town located in Cecil County,
okay,
Maryland.
could you disperse with the board vote and just read the gist of the motion?
Not really.
Yeah, why can't we? It says, the action part of it, why read the same thing over and over? It's already been read, and it's the same. So-
Well, I guess the reason for that is that many things in government are done by tradition, and that's the way it's been done in town for a long time, so.
Well,
And thank you for the interruption, and I will continue where I left off. Thank you.
who's in
I
charge
don't
of
remember
this?
where I left off.
You or me?
Pardon me?
Who's
I
in-
am reading this resolution. Thank you very much.
Ms. Osborne, you have the floor.
Whereas the
Since
town
when were
located
you
in
in
Cecil
charge?
County, Maryland is a municipality organized under and governed under Article 23A of the Annotated Code of Maryland. And whereas the town is proclaimed as a perpetual entity with the right to pass laws. And whereas Annotated Code of Maryland State Government, Article 10, Section 631 to 634, and Comar 14.18.02 titled Records Retention and Disposition Schedules requires every state, county, or local government agency to develop a program to efficiently manage its records, to include the establishment of a records retention and disposition schedule, and whereas this Comar 14.18.02.02 defines records as any documentary material in any form created or received by an agency in connection with the transaction of public business, to include written materials, emails, books, photographs, photocopies, publications, forms, microfilm, tapes, computerized records, maps, drawings, and other material in any format. And whereas these documents are to be maintained and accessible to the public as outlined by the Maryland Public Information Act, Annotated Code of Maryland State Government, Article 10, Section 611 through 630, and whereas the town already archives such records as required by way of physical storage and transfer to electronic media format, and whereas the town also has an independent email hosting exchange system capable of archiving all emails sent and received by officials conducting town business on behalf of the town of Rising Sun. And whereas Comar 14.18.02.05 titled Duties of Custodians, Public Officials, and Employees states that it is the responsibility of all custodians, public officials, and employees to retain and protect all records in their custody, and no officer, employee, or contractor of any agency shall destroy, sell, or otherwise dispose of any record in such person's care or custody or under such person's control without first having followed the record retention procedures in place. And whereas the willful, unauthorized destruction or alienation of any public record is a misdemeanor subject to criminal penalties set forth in the Annotated Code of Maryland, Criminal Law, Article 8, Section 606, and whereas any liability created by failure to properly archive such records and for failure to comply with these provisions is a liability assumed in part by the town of Rising Sun, its businesses and citizens, if not properly addressed going forward. Now therefore be it resolved that from this date forward, all email correspondence created or received by an elected town official or town employee related to the conduct of any town-related business shall be conducted using the town's hosted email exchange system, risingsunmd.org. Furthermore, this email hosting system will not be used for any personal, non-town related emails. Now therefore be it further resolved that the mayor and commissioners of the town of Rising Sun passed, approved, and adopted this resolution on this 26th day of February 2013.
So, do we,
My copy, just a point of, my copy says 27th day. but-
26th, when it says 26th.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm
All right.
reading the first one I got.
Okay, thank you.
Were there any changes?
so do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay. Any comments, discussion?
I'll start out with the discussion, if I may, Mr. Mayor. One of the things I think this does for all of us as elected officials and employees is it provides a level of protection for us as individuals. If any of our emails related to town were subpoenaed and we were using personal emails, what could happen in a subpoena is basically our personal computers could get confiscated. By having all of our town business in the email server of the town, they could really only look at what we've done through the town email server. I think it's a good protection for us as individuals in our private lives, so we don't have attorneys poking around in our hard drives of our own computers. I think it's a very positive thing. Thank you, Mr. Osborne.
Well, I don't know about other people. I know that I prefer to use my own email because I don't, and, you know, this is aimed directly at me.
I can't say that, Mr. Mayor. I think it's directed at all of us because we have all been guilty of using our personal emails on occasion because it's quicker, it's easier, and we're more familiar with it. So we all have to get used to adding another step to our process of sending emails, even though, even though I'm sitting there
Come on.
cursing at my computer because I can't get on quick enough.
And remembering yet another email password that you've got to remember, yeah.
So I know it's difficult for all of us. It's not just you, it's all of us.
Well, but everything we send by email is not town business.
That is correct. That's why you don't want your personal emails mixed up with the town emails. You can still use your personal email for all your personal stuff.
Yeah, that's sort of exactly the point.
It's only the town business. And that's what it says here. Will not be used for any personal, non-town related emails.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. So that passes, motion's accepted. Okay. Elected official, who is the sponsor of 2013-03?
I am Mr. Fisher. Thank you, sir. I'd like to read this into the record and I have a few comments. Town of Rising Sun Resolution 2013-03, Charter Amendment, Elected Official Employment Restrictions. Resolution of the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun, adopted pursuant to the authority of Section 3 and 4, entitled Home Rule, of Article 11E, entitled Municipal Corporations, of the Constitution of Maryland, and Section 11, under subtitle Charter Amendments of Article 23A, entitled Corporation Municipal, of the Annotated Code of Maryland, to amend the charter of the Town of Rising Sun, Maryland, with a provision to address amendments to the town charter to provide for restrictions on the employment by the Town of Rising Sun of elected officials holding office in the Town of Rising Sun, simultaneous with their elected office and for a period of 1 year following their departure from elected office. Section 1. Whereas it is hereby found and determined to be in the best interests of the town to amend the charter of the town to provide for a restriction on the employment by the town of Rising Sun of elected officials holding office in the town of Rising Sun simultaneous with their elected office and for a period of 1 year following their departure from elected office. This measure ensures no potential conflict of interest arises and that the elected officials do not personally benefit from any action taken while in office. Section 2. Be it resolved by the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun, Maryland, that Section C-23 of the Charter of the Town of Rising Sun, Maryland is hereby amended as follows, labeling the current language as paragraph A as follows. A. The compensation of all officers and employees of the town shall be set from time to time by the Board of Commissioners. The Mayor and Commissioners may do all things necessary to include its officers and employees, or any of them, within a retirement system, medical insurance system, or other employment benefit system as they deem necessary from time to time. And by adding the new subsection B to read as follows. B. Any individual who serves in the position of mayor or commissioner of the town of Rising Sun shall be prohibited from serving as an employee of the town or carrying out the duties of an employee position even without compensation during the term of that individual's office and for a period of 1 year following that individual leaving the elected office. With the exception of the town clerk, nothing in this section shall prohibit a current town employee who is otherwise qualified to hold elected office from the town from being a candidate for such office, provided, however, that said individual must resign their employment with the town of Rising Sun if successfully elected prior to being sworn into office. Section 3, be it further resolved by the Mayor and Commissioners of the town of Rising Sun, Maryland, that this amendment to the charter shall in all respects be effective and observed as such upon the 50th day after the date of adoption, unless on or before the 40th day thereafter there shall be presented to the Mayor and Commissioners of the town of Rising Sun or mailed to it a petition for referendum in accordance with the provisions of Section 13G of Article 23A of the Annotated Code of Maryland. Section 4. And be it further resolved by the Mayor and Commissioners of the town of Rising Sun, Maryland, that a complete and exact copy of this resolution shall be posted in municipal offices of the Mayor and Commissioners of the town of Rising Sun, Maryland, or some public place for a period of at least 40 days following its adoption. And further, that a fair summary of this proposed amendment shall be published in a newspaper of general circulation in the town of Rising Sun for not less than 4 times at weekly intervals within a period of 40 days from the adoption of this resolution. Section 5, and be it further resolved by the Mayor and Commissioners of the town of Rising Sun, Maryland, that as soon as the charter amendment hereby adopted shall become effective, the clerk of the town of Rising Sun shall send separately by registered mail to the Department of Legislative Reference the following information concerning the charter. 1, a complete copy of this resolution. 2, the date of the referendum and election, if any, held with respect to thereto. 3, the number of votes cast for or against the resolution, whether by the commissioners of Rising Sun or in referendum. And 4, the effective date of the charter. Section 6, and be it further resolved by the Mayor and Commissioners of the town of Rising Sun, Maryland, that the clerk of the town of Rising Sun be and is specifically authorized and instructed to carry out the provisions of Section 4 and 5 hereof, and as evidence of compliance herewith, the clerk shall cause to be affixed to the minutes of the meeting in which this charter shall have been adopted, 1, appropriate certification and publication of the newspaper in which the summary of the proposed amendment shall have been published, and 2, the return receipts of the mailing referenced to in Section 5. Read and introduced by the Commissioners of Rising Sun this 26th day of February 2013. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Second, please.
I'll second.
It's moved and second. Are there any comments?
If I may, thank you, sir. I don't know when it was exactly I became aware that there was nothing basically to this effect, even in the town charter. Sometime after I was elected, I had heard that there had been a time in the past when someone who was a town employee had run for office here in town, and that struck me as this says, a conflict of interest, because an elected official, as we say, can do things like set salaries, benefits, insurance, things like that. And essentially, you could get elected and then vote yourself a raise. So it's a clear conflict of interest. And the reason that I wanted to make sure that you couldn't also get a job with the town for a year after leaving office is because certainly it would be sort of what you'd call, I guess, like insider trading. Basically, you would have foreknowledge that a position might be opening up in the next several months after you leave office, and that could give you an inside edge that you really shouldn't have. So, and I think this creates a nice, delineation between employee and elected officials, because they really are both very important, but separate. They're tasked differently. So I'm pleased to bring this forward, and thank you for the second.
Any further comment?
I guess my comment is, it's not just only for this resolution, but the rest of them, all 7. When did all of these come about? Just out of curiosity. This is the first 7:45 last night.
I'll speak to that. This one is one that's been knocking on my head for some time. As I say, whenever I heard that someone had run for office who was a town employee, I said, well, that seems kind of problematic. So this has been something I've been wanting to bring forward for some time. Regarding the other ones, and we'll get into those as they come down the pipe, but my understanding, and we can have more discussion about those as we read them into the record, is that a lot of those came out of some of the issues that came up last year at the election. Does that answer your question, Charlie?
I mean, yeah, the answer is for the most part. I guess what my concern is, I mean, none of these are emergencies.
We're not voting on them as emergency.
I'm just saying that none of them are. I don't see why we cannot just read them and table them all tonight and finish them off the next meeting. I don't, honestly, all of them, 1 through 7, I don't like this being thrown in my lap the night before. That's just my opinion. You guys do what you feel is right, but I don't.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. This is, I mean, certainly it's within our purview to pass resolutions. Then if they're introduced, ordinances have to sit.
I think my issue, if I may, Charlie, and I know you were kind of directing it to the floor, is that if we don't get these issues addressed, they can't become effective at the next election. We're looking at the election after that. So we missed a meeting, therefore we don't know, I mean, I don't know, for instance, how many of these issues would have been addressed at our last town meeting if we would have had it. And then we would have had a few things to do tonight. Instead, we're combining 2 meetings into one, which in my mindset is the reason that we're doing it. And, I mean.
May I address that to some degree? Most of these resolutions, I know that our town attorney has been working on language, making sure that the bases are covered for some time, because I know that Commissioner Naughton had talked at previous meetings, if not during the meeting, talked after or before the meeting regarding employees being elected to, holding elected office at the same time that they are employees. So I know that that's been ongoing for several, I'm gonna say since November. I think it's probably the first that I remember Stephen mentioning it. The others having to do with delineating some of the things that went wrong in the last election, where voters were turned away, or addresses were incorrect, or verifications were not easy to come by. Those are the kinds of things that we would like to get straightened out. We talked about them with Mr. Bello several months ago, so that these issues wouldn't occur at the next election, and I'm sure that they were in process so that we could have them in place by our next election, which is coming up. And these things don't really change anything except to delineate what happens with our voter registration list? What happens so that we don't have issues with it? Is there an easy, counting the ballots and how we make sure that everything gets counted correctly, even so far as to getting the machines from the, voting machines from the Cecil County Election Board, because I found out not too long ago that, those are available for town elections. So why aren't we utilizing them? Because I guess none of us knew. I didn't know that we could use them. The old machines are just sitting there collecting dust. I'm not saying that we should use the new electronic ones, but the old voting machines, I don't have a problem with using them for our town elections, which makes tabulation a whole lot easier. It smooths the whole election process. It doesn't do any one of us any good because, it doesn't do any one of us any good. It helps our residents vote, which is what we want them to do. We want them to feel like, yes, I am a registered voter, and yes, I can go in there and vote because I am a registered voter. And my vote's gonna count. That's what the next 4 are aimed at. And if we'd like to eliminate the issues that we had with the last election, which, took up a lot of time in our first few meetings, this is one way to solve the problems that we know exist. Of course, there may be more problems that we don't know exist.
Sure.
I'm not saying this is gonna solve all the problems, but it's gonna solve the problems that we do know about.
Let's deal with 2013-03 right at the moment. Has there ever been a problem? I think it was always the rule that if anybody was a town official, that they could not work for the town. So I don't know why that all of a sudden becomes a big problem. That, we're fixing things that are not broke.
Actually, it's not a rule. It's not anywhere in the town code.
Uh,
It's not anywhere in the town code or the
Well,
town
it
charter.
was well known in the town, and can you cite me any incident where this was a problem?
It was well known in the town by the people who have lived here for 50 years, but the people who were moving in don't know these things.
I think it's the aspect of not that it's happened before, but that it could happen. And that we are creating a safety net right here with this, so.
Well, there's a lot of other things, an infinite number of things that can happen that we can't make laws or don't need to make laws about.
Well,
We don't need to make things any more complicated than they have to be. And I know of no instance, and I've lived 71 years of my life in Rising Sun, so, I just think, why are we having to come up with all this new stuff and the election? First of all, the county don't own the machines, they rent the machines, so the machines don't belong to the county. They're not in a warehouse someplace unless they've changed it since I was involved with running for office in the county government. So, we come up with hypothetical problems, and there's enough real problems in the world to solve without hypothetical problems. And so, I think we spend a lot of time on things that don't need to be done.
Thank you actually for
It's the
saying.
old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. One of the thing I took away from what you just said was that we don't need to create more problems. And I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what my intent is with this resolution. It is to address this situation before it becomes a problem. I'm glad you said that. And I also think of something else that I've heard a lot, and that is that you don't want to have a situation where you have conflict of interest, and here's the punchline, or the appearance of conflict of interest. And what this is doing is making sure that we are saying very clearly that We are not going to have a situation where someone has the opportunity to use their elected position to, for example, vote themselves a raise. So thank you for bringing your concerns up.
Well, this is a small town. Most of us know a good many people in town and know which people are doing these things. I think it becomes quickly known in the town if anything out of order takes place, so, but, you know.
Mayor,
Calvin has something.
Mayor, if I may, there actually were two issues that happened in the past that previous elected bodies have raised an issue about it too. I'm not sure the exact year, but it was back in the 90s. We had an employee who was a town commissioner while they were an employee at the same time. And then we also, as
Well,
you
who
know,
was it?
I'm not gonna throw that employee under the bus. You know, you can, I don't wanna give the
Well, it's
impression.
public information.
Yes, and you can, I hope people can understand what I'm saying. I don't want the impression given that that employee who's still here did something wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. We're just trying to fix the problem going forward. So if anyone wants to, you know, you can find that. Just go through the town meeting minutes and you'll be able to see who it is. You're right, it is public information. But I just want to make sure I'm not looking to throw anybody under the bus. You asked the question. There is an instance when it happened. You also are aware that when you were the circuit rider, as a town administrator circuit rider, the town shortly thereafter in the 90s decided that they wanted to create a position of town administrator. And the individual that was appointed town administrator was a commissioner in the month of June and then appeared as the town administrator in the month of July in that year. And so it hits right to the point of how does that happen? Again, that individual didn't do anything wrong. Nobody's throwing anybody under the bus. It's just maybe that's not a good way to be running things. It goes to the appearance of ethical issues. So I just wanted to throw out there are two documented cases of it happening in the town of Rising Sun. And I'd be more than happy to show you those tomorrow.
Thank you.
You can give it to me in writing. Okay.
There's a motion and a second.
Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. 3 ayes, 1 abstention. Okay. 21, resolution 2013-05.
Can you get 04 first?
Okay. Okay, 04, I'm correct.
Resolution, Town of Rising Sun Resolution 2013-04. And I want to say before I read the resolution that these next 4 resolutions will help resolve issues experienced in the 2012 elections. These resolutions are charter changes, just like the last resolution was, and residents will have 40 days to petition for referendum if they so desire. These charter changes become effective on the 50th day after today if they're not brought to referendum. So you do have the option of getting these things referred to referendum if they're unsatisfactory with the residents. We are trying to pass resolutions that will improve the process. Resolution 2013-04, Charter Amendment Voter Registration. Resolution of the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun adopted pursuant to the authority of Section 3 and 4 entitled Home Rule of Article 11E entitled Municipal Corporations of the Constitution of Maryland and Section 11 all under subtitle Charter Amendments of Article 23A entitled Corporations Municipal of the Annotated Code of Maryland to amend the charter of the Town of Rising Sun, Maryland with a provision to address amendments to the town charter to provide for clear and consistent voter registration policies and procedures. Section 1. Whereas it is hereby found and determined to be in the best interest of the town to amend the charter of the town to provide for a clear and consistent voter registration policies and procedures in the town of Rising Sun. This measure ensures the rights of Rising Sun residents to exercise their constitutional rights to actively participate in town elections, referendums, and special elections, and to ensure that no resident is precluded from voting due to confusion about registration policies and procedures. Section 2. Be it resolved by the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun, Maryland, that Section C4 of the Charter of the Town of Rising Sun, titled Voter Qualifications and Registrations, is hereby amended by amending and reenacting Section C4 in its entirety to read as follows. Section C6. Voter qualifications, registration, and public notification. A. Qualified voters. Every person who is a citizen of the United States. 2. At least 18 years of age. 3. A bona fide resident of the town for at least 30 days preceding any election at which he shall offer to vote, is eligible to register to vote in the elections. B. Voter registration. All qualified persons wishing to register to vote shall do so at the Cecil County Election Board and as provided for by state law. Any qualified persons registered and listed on the statewide voter registration list and an address within the incorporated limits of Rising Sun shall be considered registered town voters and shall be eligible to vote in town elections. Hours of voter registration shall be in accordance to Cecil County Election Board policy and state law. However, the final list of qualified registered voters for town elections as established by the Cecil County Election Board shall be closed and final 30 days prior to any upcoming town election. Absentee ballots. Any qualified voter of the town is entitled to vote in all town elections by absentee ballot as provided for in the charter. D. Notice of voter registration. At least 2 successive weeks prior to the expiration of time in which qualified voters may register to vote in the upcoming election, the election clerk shall publish a notice of such deadline in a newspaper of general circulation at the town hall and on the town's website. E. Appeals. If any person shall feel aggrieved by an action in refusing to be registered to vote or in striking the name of any person from the voter list, or by any other action, such person may appeal such decision to the Board of Election Judges. The decision of the Board of Election Judges upon such appeal may be further reviewed by filing a petition for appeal in the Circuit Court for Cecil County within 10 days of the decision of the Board of Election Judges, but in no event may such petition be filed less than 20 days prior to the election. Section 3, and be it further resolved by the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun that this amendment to the Charter shall in all respects be effective and observed as such upon the 50th day after the date of adoption, unless on or before the 40th day thereafter there should be presented to the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun or mailed to it a petition for referendum in accordance with the provisions of Section 13G of Article 23A of the Annotated Code of Maryland. Section 4. And be it further resolved by the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun that a complete and exact copy of this resolution shall be posted in the municipal offices of the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun, Maryland, or some public place for a period of at least 40 days following its adoption. And further, that a fair summary of this proposed amendment shall be published in a newspaper of general circulation in the Town of Rising Sun for not less than 4 times at weekly intervals within a period of 40 days from the adoption of this resolution. Section 5. And be it further resolved by the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun, Maryland, that as soon as the charter amendment hereby adopted shall become effective, the clerk of the Town of Rising Sun shall send separately by registered mail to the Department of Legislative Reference the following information concerning the charter. 1, a complete copy of this resolution. 2, the date of the referendum election, if any, held with respect thereto. 3, the number of votes cast for or against the resolution, whether by the Commissioners of Rising Sun or in a referendum. And 4, the effective date of the charter. Section 6. And be it further resolved by the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Rising Sun, Maryland, that the Clerk of the Town of Rising Sun be and is specifically authorized and instructed to carry out the provisions of Section 4 and 5 hereof, and as evidence of compliance herewith, the clerk shall cause to be affixed to the minutes of the meeting in which this charter shall have been adopted. 1, appropriate certification of publication of the newspaper in which the summary of the proposed amendment shall have been published. 2, the return receipts of the mailing referred to in Section 5. Read and introduced by the Commissioners of Rising Sun, Maryland, this 26th day of February 2013. Hereby made a motion.
We've heard the motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded, we consider this resolution. Are there any comments? In effect, we're doing away with the separate registration. For whatever reason, a lot of people had chosen not to be on the county list for whatever reason. They don't want to register to vote in the county, but do desire to vote in the town. So we're taking away that privilege, and I don't think that we want to take away the privilege of anybody to vote. If they want to vote, that's up to them. I don't think we should be dictating that they have to register in the county rather than just in the town. So.
I'll address that. I think actually it's an interesting point and a good point, although I guess just being a person who is interested in words and language, I would point out that voting is certainly not a privilege. Voting is a right. Serving as elected officers is a privilege, one that I very much enjoy. But voting is a right, and when we talk about rights, we need to be very careful. So I think what we're doing, certainly if someone doesn't wish to vote at the county level, they don't have to go and vote. What we're doing, and I think this is the intent of this whole package of resolutions and charter changes, is to make the system easier to deal with. If there's one voter list, I think it will be easier for elections to, for elections to happen, not to happen, but I think, let me rephrase that. By having one voter list, the potential for problems is reduced. What we're doing is we are trying to streamline the process. As Ms. Osborne alluded to, we're trying to make the process something where everyone who has the right to vote gets to vote. And having one master list, I think, is a step in the right direction toward doing that. So I think that's why